Hey, it's Tim with the University of Vinyl. Thanks for tuning in again today. First things first, if you're new to the channel, if you like today's video and maybe check out my back catalog, I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing, like the video, ring the bell. You know, all these influencers on YouTube, they all point to the same thing and they say, if you don't ask, you don't get. I have had fantastic success with my channel, and I am not an egomaniac, but for me to keep doing this, I need a little feedback, I need a little response, I need some kind of evidence that what I am doing is hitting out there, and the way that I can see that is comments, likes, and subscribers. So, okay, enough about that. I've been seriously collecting records for back in the game for, let's say, 7 years. I'm going to say I started really getting back into this in 2017. I bought a vintage Sony turntable and picked up some the old large Advent speakers and a Sony vintage receiver, and I was kind of off and running. You know, I've done kind of room setups and my system videos in the past. Check out the catalog if you want to see what I'm currently running with. I'm really pleased. But yeah, 7 years in, I thought it would be a cool time to share with you where I am on 10 classic titles. These are not the 10 best records ever produced or known to man. These are 10 records that are special. They're important to me, and I think they're probably important to a lot of other people who might be viewing this video. But I wanted to share where I have landed as far as my forever copy. Record collectors, if you're watching, you're probably one, or you're thinking about jumping into this hobby. We are prone to buy multiple copies of the same title and do, you know, shootouts with ourselves and with our friends and watch shootouts on YouTube to determine what we feel is the best sounding representation of that record with our own ears on our own system. So here is where I have landed on these 10 titles. 1969, Abbey Road, one of the best records of all time. I think we can all agree on that one. This is a UK pressing. It's a -2 on side 1, a -1 on side 2. It is a very early first pressing, and it also is identified on the back cover. You will see that the Apple logo here is not in line with the block text there, the credits, etc. It's a misaligned Apple. There is also no Her Majesty's Request. You will also find on this record the storm grate is present here, and then finally there is very, very little space between the tree and the top of that sleeve. A gorgeous laminated pressing. This is a VG Plus copy, and the sound is just glorious. This is all I need. It's a VG Plus copy. Did I say that? The only thing that would sway me from moving on this copy to someone else is if I was able to find something really, really flawless. I'm lucky because there are some visible marks and faint hairlines on the record, but it does not affect play. It is 90% silent, maybe a little lead-in noise on a track or two, but importantly, side 2, that glorious, you know, song suite, famous song suite. It's an amazing listen. So there you have it. If you don't have a UK pressing, I highly recommend you try and find an early UK pressing. If you can get a -2, -1, even better. I think you're going to love it. You know, there's not really a bad sounding pressing out there. unless you have some kind of mid to late 1970s thing that has been beaten up. But you know, any self-respecting collector, you're deserving of having a fantastic sounding pressing, and the -2-1 delivers. Next up is the 1975 Fleetwood Mac record, self-titled, also known as the White Album. And I think the best representation, the best bang for your buck, is going to be a near mint copy of the Ken Dunn pressing. Ken Dunn Recorders was the mastering house where this was mastered. It was produced by Keith Olsen. There are things to look for in the dead wax that identify Keith Olsen being present during the cutting session, and those are signified with a pogo, P-O-G-O, in the dead wax. This one actually has a little heart next to the pogo. This is a Santa Maria pressing, and it is a textured cover. I'm not going to take the protective sleeve off. You know, maybe you can see that, maybe you can't, but you know, there is a Kevin Gray, Steve Hoffman remaster of this record that sounds amazing, but I don't have that, and frankly, this is one of the most dynamic records of my collection. Just an amazing listen, huge presence, huge energy, a great sounding record, and I'm good here. So this is the the original pressing. Look for Ken Dunn in both side A and side B stamped. I am a huge fan of XTC, and one of my favorite records is 1982's English Settlement. I have settled on, believe it or not, I have 2 UK pressings. These are, of course, the textured copies. And, let's see if we can see the difference here. There is my second one. This is actually pretty cool. I have what is called the wide spine, which is much easier to read as far as the title is concerned right there. And then I have the more narrow spine. This, of course, was not a gatefold. Both of these are top loaders. So both records were inside. And look for Townhouse stamped in the dead wax. And these are basically almost identical as far as sound is concerned. Believe it or not, the wide spine is a little bit cleaner for me, but this is just a legendary audiophile-esque record. It sounds so great. Double LP, of course. And, I've the journey here is that I originally I found a 1986 repress Geffen with Geffen here, and this sounds really, really good. Nothing to be ashamed of if you have this pressing. What you don't want is the initial US pressing. They truncated the double album record down to one single record, and I think it's missing 4 or 5 songs from the original release. This returned the double album to the US when Geffen picked up the rights in I think 1986, and they reissued English Settlement. I also have the Ape reissue that is no slouch by any means. I just, in my journey with XTC, I was able to find that wide spine pressing, super clean, picked it up at a record show, and I'm now done on my journey with XTC's English Settlement. Harvest, 1972, Neil Young. What an incredible classic record. And in the last month, I've picked up the first promo copy I've ever seen of this record. It's not a white label, but it does have sterling in both sides with LH for Lee Hochul's initials. There are early pressings that don't have the LH, and I had one of those. It was a Santa Maria pressing. It sounded fantastic, but Maybe it's a psychological thing. I kind of sleep easier at night knowing I've got a double LH and a double Sterling, and the fact that this is also a Santa Maria pressing, which I think sounds absolutely amazing. It was super clean and, you know, really nice cover. Of course, this has got the very kind of the textured cover as well from those early pressings. I've had a Chris Bellman reissue. I feel this sounds just ever so slightly better than the Bellman pressing. You know, the great thing with these Chris Bellman Neil Young reissues, if you personally can't find a clean vintage copy, by all means, jump on the Bellman reissues. They all are fantastic. They're audiophile issues, basically. Neil Young and his team will actually put on the back cover kind of like a SPARS code as far as what the source was and how that particular pressing was produced. Last fall, I put out one of the best performing videos, and it was kind of an off-the-cuff video that I did. When the UHQR pressing for Steely Dan's Asia came out, I put out a pressing saying I was going to pass on the UHQR, which I did, and I still have not, I still haven't pulled the trigger on it. Reason being is because I am super happy. I've got two dogs in the background today that are super hyper, so we're just going to have to work through that. I am super happy with the early pressing Santa Maria copies of this record, and importantly, and maybe this is controversial, maybe not, considering recent events. Did you watch the Steve Westman live stream with Steve Hoffman 2 or 3 weeks ago? Steve Hoffman came out and said he thought the best sounding record to his ears on his system was the AA 1006. That is the repressing. The initial pressing was the AB 1006. For me, on my system, with my ears, I prefer the AB 1006. I always have. I just picked this up last weekend. I was on a quick trip to see a close friend with my wife up in Boise, Idaho. It's not a white label promo. And unfortunately, this one had a little bit of noise on it. I just put it through the Humming Guru, put it on the turntable. But even with slight noise on a couple tracks, man, it's just a really great sounding representation of this classic record. Thankfully, I do have a near mint copy here that is dead silent. And that's what you want, I think, personally. If you don't want to spring $150, these can be found out in the wild. So many hundreds of thousands of these of the initial run, I think, were pressed, the AB 1006, that you should be able to find a good copy. Okay, number 5, one of my favorite Bowie titles of all, and it is Station to Station. This is just an immaculate pressing, and it is an RCA demo. Maybe you can see in the corner there, they have that very subtle demo stamp in the corner. This was, of course, on the tan RCA label. It's a 1976 first pressing. Look for H in the dead wax for Hollywood. Just an immaculate sounding recording, so alive, so much air where there needs to be air in a really fantastic classic vinyl pressing. This is an experience to listen to. It's a breathtaking album, Station to Station. I thought I would throw in one jazz title because this title, I know that there is either a classic or a tone poet of it. I am a big Herbie Hancock fan. I am looking for a nice, clean reissue, really, a repressing of Empyrean Isles. But Maiden Voyage, This is just fantastic. This has got huge energy, almost distorted in parts, but the music is so great. It just has a lot of energy, and the fact that it is a 1973 Black B with Van Gelder in the dead wax, this is super affordable. I picked this up for, I think, $27 in a local shop. Oh man, almost a year ago now. I think this was last summer. And this is my forever copy. I don't need anything else. This sounds amazing. Number 7, an album that I grew up with in high school, that I know the music, like the back of my hand. I put this on and it brings me back. And I remember this being just a great sounding album, and maybe a little fatiguing on CD. That's a hot take. I'm just going to throw it out there. So I have, I've had a couple original pressings. I picked up a Chris Bellman reissue, and I have finally settled on this gold stamp promo QX2 copy. It's translucent if you hold up the record to light. QX2, if you don't know, limited edition pressing. Higher quality vinyl compound was used on this series, and it had the hype sticker on the back as well, right here. A near mint copy that I picked up at the Northern Colorado Record Show in early June? I think it was early June. Maybe it was late May. Recently. And this is all I need for this record. I'm not even going to bother with the MoFi. This thing sounds amazing. Okay, record number 8 and 9 are 2 Pink Floyd titles. And the first is Metal. What an amazing pressing with the textured cover. And this is, of course, a laminated cover. UK early pressing. I've already done a video on this record. I'm doing a series of videos called The Crown Jewels, the best sounding records in my collection. I featured this recently. You can find that playlist in my channel. Original EMI sleeve. The interior is also laminated and textured. This is just an incredible listen. Followed up closely by Obscured by Clouds. This is a U.S. Jacksonville pressing. There's that Harvest label as well. Mastered at Capitol in the United States by Wally Traugott. You will find Wally on side A and side B in a cursive etching. This thing, I have not heard this record in over a year. I put it on my turntable last night. I got back from my trip. I was kind of decompressing and relaxing. This thing just kind of blew my head off. This is, first of all, a very underrated album. It's actually a soundtrack. Music from the film The Valley. And man, there is just so much fantastic musicianship from all 4 members on this record. Highly, highly recommended. I'm not going to go look for a UK pressing, which, if you know my MO, you would think, oh, why isn't he going after a UK? It's because I heard this with my own ears and I remember it now. It just sounds amazing. So dynamic, so punchy. Wow. Drum sounds are amazing on that pressing. So look for an early US pressing if you want to find an affordable copy of Obscured by Clouds. Make sure you get the one with Wally in the dead wax on side A and B. Last but not least, probably not my favorite Who record, but I think something that everyone needs to have a great, clean sounding pressing of. I'll go on record and say I'm not a fan of the Who reissues that have been coming out slowly but surely. I prefer an original pressing, and I have 2 here. So the first one is a 1971 repress. You will actually find 1971 in the dead wax and GK initials. Those are for, of course, Gilbert Kong. I thought this was going to be my forever copy. I'm probably not going to be able to let this thing go. But this is a very dynamic sounding recording, and it has great presence. It has great soundstage, a dynamic pressing, pardon me. The only drawback that I have picked up on this is a little bit of sibilance on some of the vocals and some of the cymbals as well. But the Keith Moon drum sounds on this are stupendous, just amazing. That is a pressing to seek out if you can find a clean one. However, within the last 3 weeks, I have found basically a near mint, unplayed, second pressing 1973 UK original. This was on the trifold. As you can see here, I have the booklet, of course, with this as well. It came in the original UK bags that you can see right here. Of course, this was on track. You can probably see that. This is basically unplayed. And it's an overall better presentation of the album. Perfect soundstage, really nice dynamics, plenty of bottom end, no sibilance whatsoever on this pressing. So this is now going to be my go-to for Tommy. The 1973 reissue UK original. Back to the US Gilbert Kong, you can see that was a Decca label. And, you know, this thing is in near mint condition as well. So it was nice that I have two dead silent copies of this. But again, the Gilbert Kong has just a little more overdriven top end that results in some sibilance. There you have it, everybody. That is it for today. A fun video for me. Kind of doing a little bit of an assessment of where I am in my kind of collecting journey, where I sit on 10 classic titles. Hope you like this. Feel free to drop comments and please subscribe to my channel if you are interested in learning more about collecting records and maybe want to learn more about my journey, where I've been, where I'm going. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.
I'm listening to the birds, smelling flowers. That sounded like a horse, but it wasn't. Ooh. Look at all the trails.
Yeah.